Well, hello everybody, welcome to Red Toolhouse. On our YouTube channel we talk about all things homesteading and try to implement some of those things on our rural 100 acres here in southern West Virginia. Well, in today's video I want to answer a question that was sent through our website. You can go to redtoolhouse.com, hit our contact, and you'll see a form there where you can submit questions. And I get those from time to time. But Paul Sedlock sent me this question, and he wanted to know about security. Troy, how do you handle security at your homestead when it comes to your livestock, your house, and just overall trespassers, ATVs, hunters, those things? So we'll jump into that. So with the first part of that question of how do we deal with security when it comes to our animals, our livestock, well, we've kind of discussed that through a lot of videos, so I won't get into too much detail there. But really, it comes down to the containment systems we have for our animals. On our farm, of course, we have pigs and chickens. So what do we do to keep from having loss when it comes to predation to chickens? Well, we have our chicken pasture that's fenced in. We've shown that quite a few times. And then at night, of course, they go into the coop, and we have the automatic door that closes and keeps the night predators, the raccoons and possums, from getting in there and killing them. Now, do we have loss from time to time? Sure. In fact, I lost one earlier this week because for some reason she decided she wasn't going to go in. She hung out after dark, so she missed the cutoff, gate closed, and it was all over for her at that time. But primarily when it comes to security of the animals, it really is just having a containment system. And with the pigs, the sows are large enough they can spend all their time in the pasture. We don't have to worry about coyote. I've yet to really find coyote sign inside the pasture. And again, this is not exact science by any means, but our single strand of electric fence, I've seen coyote sign on the outside of it, but I've never seen on the inside of it. And if my black lab is any indication, she won't come near it. If I even put one of the gates down, she won't come across it unless I really, really coax her across it. So I don't know if dogs can pick up on that, and coyotes are the same, and they stay away from that, but I haven't had any issues there. Now, when it comes time for the piglets, when they're smaller, you can see them, I don't know if they'll show up on this distance, but on the hill back there, they're obviously at the size now that I wouldn't worry about a coyote tangling with them anyway, unless it was a pack and they were able to corner it. They've gotten pretty big, and I think they could handle coyote pressure there. But same situation, they're behind electric fence as well. So like I said, I haven't seen coyote sign cross that electric fence. Now, a lot of y'all ask me about bear. Troy, what's the situation with bear? How do bear interact with your homestead? And we really don't have a bear issue here. There are black bear in our area. You see them all over the place county-wise as far as people reporting them. I've seen some bear sign in our valley in the 17 years I've been here, but I've yet to actually encounter a bear or see a bear try anything. They've never come into the barn to mess with feed. They've never messed with if I'm using a large feeder or any of the drop feeders that we have, they've never done that. And of course, electric fence, are they susceptible to not wanting to cross electric fence? I don't know, but I haven't had any issue with bear, knock on wood. The other predator that we would have that could be an issue would be a bobcat. I don't see a bobcat messing with pigs per se, but they could be an issue to chickens. And again, the way we have our chickens confined, I think we're okay there. Really, it's an issue of if those animals are hungry enough, if there's not enough source for food out in the woods, are they going to come in and try some of these issues with our livestock? And like I said, we just haven't run into that yet. So animal security is not an issue. Now, I don't know if Paul was asking me about what about theft of my animals. Has anyone ever tried to come steal one of my animals? And no, I haven't had that. I've never had any chicken thieves. It would be kind of funny to actually watch somebody try to steal one of these pigs, unless you came up with a trank gun, or you're actually going to shoot that animal dead and then take it. Maybe that would be an issue, and that wouldn't be so funny. But I'd like to see somebody kind of run up and try to grab one of our pigs and toss it in a truck and drive off. That would actually be a good video. Well, so the next leg to that question is, well, what about your house and your equipment, your side-by-side and your tractor and your stuff in your barn and your house itself? What do you do for home security there? Well, to be honest, I try to be as transparent as possible on my channel, but I'm not going to go into detail on that here for obvious reasons. We do have security measures in place. Some are non-lethal, some are lethal. We do have some security cameras, those things in place. We have things that give me confidence in that our place is going to be okay. And that doesn't mean something can happen tomorrow. But I've put some things in place that I think are going to discourage anyone from coming on farm. There's actually a funny story, and again, I don't know if this has any weight at all to it, but there's a funny story. 17 years ago, we bought this place and we moved and started working on it. So we weren't from around this area. We were outsiders, city slickers, if you will. So we came in this area, and just nothing intentional. When I lived in Florida, I had a buddy that worked for the DEA, and he gave me a DEA hat. So I'm walking around, I'd use that hat. I had paint all over the hat. I've just used it as just a ball cap. Not even thinking anything about it. Well, when we bought this property, I'm out here working on stuff, and of course I'm wearing my DEA cap. And several neighbors came by when we first bought it. Again, a lot of people were curious about the activity going on, something that had been abandoned for 20 plus years. So people were coming by, neighbors come by checking out. We had some issues there, people saying, hey, this is mine, that's mine, whatever. But everybody saw me wearing that cap, and I never thought anything of it. And nobody ever said anything about it. Hey, what do you do for a living? We never had that discussion. Well, fast forward a year or two later, and one of the neighbors calls and says, can you help me, Troy, with my grandson? It's like, well, what's wrong with your grandson, and why are you calling me? And she said, well, he's been getting into drugs, running around with the wrong people. I thought maybe you could talk to him and maybe put some fear into him. And I'm like, well, I guess maybe I'm a little bit intimidating. I'm tall, but other than that, I don't really consider myself an intimidating guy. I'm like, why do you think I could put the fear into him? She goes, well, since you work for the DEA, I figured that would put the fear in him. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Who told you that? And so that stopped me kind of dead in my tracks. I'm like, why in the world did this lady who's never met me before think I work for the DEA? How in the world did that get passed around? It's not like I'm driving a vehicle with federal tags on it or anything. And I got to thinking, wow, maybe it was because of that hat. Well, I didn't tell her, no, I don't work for the DEA. That's crazy. What are you, nuts? I just said, I really don't want to talk about that. so I kind of just let that dog sit. But then I got to thinking later, I was like, when I live, if people think I work for the DEA and I'm out in the middle of the woods, they're going to think, hey, you're going to find my grow patch and club me in the back of the head like a baby seal. So anyway, so that's a story. I have no idea if that has any bearing. I'm not saying that that to protect your homestead, you should misinform people to think that you work for a federal agency. That is not a good idea. But it's kind of funny how rumors got started and spun around there. Again, they could have thought I worked for the DEA. They could have thought I was dealing drugs. They could have thought all kinds of different things. Who knows what gets these rumors started? But it was just kind of a funny story we ran into there. And while we're on the subject of anecdotal stories, there's actually another situation I think maybe helps influence keeping the riffraff away. We like to have, we've got a bunch of friends that come together, friends from church, friends that I've known for years. We all come together on our homestead from time to time, and we all like to shoot. We're gun enthusiasts, so we all have our favorite firearm, and they come out here. We've got places set up where we shoot. We have a nice, safe afternoon of shooting and fellowship, and we usually cook out. There's obviously you got to get together and have food. If you're going to have firearms, you got to have food, right? Those two walk hand in hand. So we get together and shoot. Well, it's interesting, the sounds that reverberate from our valley. And our neighbors hear this massive amounts of firepower. I mean, guys that work for the FBI that bring out fully auto guns. We have guys, a good buddy that's got a lot of World War II weaponry. So M1 Garand, you ain't heard a sound till you've heard an M1 Garand fire in a valley like this. So there's a lot of very intimidating noises that come from our valley on a regular basis. And so I think maybe that has some bearing. My brother even brought his cannon out one time, and so we were shooting golf balls from one ridge to the other. And that sound, of course, is very distinct. So people may be wondering, those people are crazy, or they're starting a cult, or there's some sort of military compound up there. Maybe we won't have anything to do with that. I'm not suggesting that you base your entire security protocol on perspective or perception because you're making a lot of loud noises. Okay, well, to tie all this together and to kind of wrap it up, Paul also asked about trespassers, ATVs, hunters, and that was a really big issue here at Red Tool House back when we bought our property. Where I'm standing was really kind of like Grand Central Station, or the main highway through this valley. Again, I know it's tough just from one camera angle to figure out how our valley lays, but if you've watched our videos for a while, you know that our 100 acres is a watershed. Right here is the watershed beside me. This creek here goes all the way to the back of the valley. So we're surrounded. If if my hands represent the valley wall, it's the mountain goes back and then it turns a little and goes on back. Well, this was the way you get from point A to point B. People would ride, since this was abandoned for 20 plus years, people would ride their ATVs through here to get back to the county road way back here or get to wherever they were going. And of course, being abandoned for that long, people are like, wow, there's a lot of land in here nobody's using. We're going to establish hunting areas. So a lot of people said, hey, I'm going to not only trespass on this, I'm going to hunt. So when I bought the property, I'll never forget, I had multiple conversations down in the front of my property with people that say, wait a minute, I've hunted on this place for 20 plus years. You're not going to tell me I can't hunt on here anymore. And I was like, I beg to differ. And so we had some of these arguments. Man, it's like people just thought, well, I've done this for so long, you can't stop me from doing what I want to do. And that's where, again, you just have to buck up and challenge and say, yeah, I can. I've got the law on my side. I'm not going to threaten you with bodily harm. I'm not going to let you threaten me with bodily harm. But I've got the law on my side. I'm going to tell you first, do not trespass. And when you do, then the law is going to be involved. So it was one of those things where I had to set a precedent. No, I'm not a pushover. No, you're not just going to walk all over me and help yourself to my property. And then, of course, I put things in place. So we block some things off, block some roads. And trespassers are usually like the path, they're like water. They seek the path of least resistance. If they want to get from point A to point B, and I've got the area in between blocked off, then they're just going to go around me. It becomes my neighbor's problem, or it becomes somebody else's problem. And so that's what worked out. We were able just to redirect a lot of this traffic off of us. Now, the thing that I suggest that brings all of this together is neighbors. I love my neighbors. I've got great neighbors on all sides. You guys have seen one of my neighbors. Again, Charlie passed away last year, but his farm was right over here, and he would come over and help castrate pigs. I'd use his livestock trailer. We had a really good relationship, and I miss him greatly. But he was a great neighbor that he would keep an eye out on my stuff. I would keep an eye out on his stuff. Same with this neighbor over here. We have this mutual agreement to, hey, we recognize each other's vehicles. If we see something up here that's not right, we're going to notify one another. Neighbors on the front end, same way. There ain't nothing on the back end. It's 600 acres of nothing back there. So our property really bodes well for having good neighbors to keep an eye on what we've got going on. We still have our privacy, but we have that overwatch of other neighbors. So that's what I'd recommend out of all of this. Whatever your security protocol is for your homestead, get to know your neighbors. If your neighbor's a jerk, find a way to fix that. Love a jerk. If you can convince him and win him over, then you've got an asset there. If your neighbor's your thief or your neighbor's your trespasser, then of course that makes it a little more complicated. But you really want to try to establish a great relationship with your neighbors. They can be your biggest asset when it comes to home security. Well, I hope everybody appreciated this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. And I appreciate the questions. If you have any suggestions or you have questions for what we've got going on here and you want to see those addressed in a video, then send them to us. You can comment below and we'll try to find them. Again, some of those comments get buried because YouTube doesn't notify me of every comment that comes through. But if you want to make sure I see something, go to our website, redtoolhouse.com, use that contact form, and I'll be sure to see it that way. And like I said, we'll try to incorporate that into our video subjects in the future. All right, take care, everybody.